Pastor. So as I was mentioning to someone earlier before our service started, I'm feeling especially happy and fulfilled and excited to be back. This is my first Shabbat back in several weeks. I've had some vacation time away. It was wonderful to be gone and really, really wonderful to be back. It's just a delight to be back with all of you to share Shabbat together as we say our goodbyes to summer and start sending our kids back to school and welcoming in a new year of programming and events here at Temple. My time away gave me a really fortunate opportunity or two to visit some family, spend some time traveling in a few different places around the country. I was on the West Coast for a while, I was in the Northeast, and I spent a few days in the mountains as well. It was a really busy summer, and it was just terrific, as you'll, I'm sure, be able to relate, to have some time away from the Houston summer, because in all of those places, it was very comfortable to spend time outdoors, to take the dogs out, to take some good long walks and do some hiking, which is one of my favorite things to do. So I got out walking and hiking a bunch of times this summer, and only after about the fourth or fifth time that I went out for a walk or a hike, it occurred to me that every single time I'd go out for a hike, every single time I set out, I make the exact same mistake. Every time, without fail. I do the same thing every time, literally every time I go hiking, the same mistake. Wherever I am, whenever I start, I begin by going much too fast. Always. And sometimes I don't realize it until I'm a mile or two in, and I realize, the altitude is starting to get to me, I'm feeling a little winded. Maybe I feel it in my legs or my hips sooner than I expected to. Sometimes the awareness dawns on me suddenly after I've taken a quick step in the wrong place, or I take a stumble and I realize, that wouldn't have happened if I'd just been going a little bit slower. I know I'm not the only one who struggles with that on the hiking trail. I also know that this is something to be aware of in other areas of our lives as well, physical exercise, of course, but also in many other kinds of undertakings. If you're picking up a new hobby, working to learn a new skill, exploring a language or a new city, figuring out how to use a new tool or a musical instrument, or becoming a bar mitzvah. As much of a challenge as it is to pick up a new technical skill, it is equally challenging and equally important to keep a brake on the zeal and excitement of a new beginning. Moving too fast at the beginning of a project can result in mistakes or injuries, and it also often leads to sloppiness. I remember very clearly when I was first picking up the guitar and my teacher assigned me a new song to learn. I learned the chord progressions and memorized them by heart and was so excited to come back to my next lesson. And when I did, I was so excited to show off for my teacher that I started playing the chords in rapid succession, one after the other, to show him how good the song was. And he stopped me right away. He had me start over from the beginning, and he told me to play it 1/10 as fast. Obviously, he wanted to make sure that, especially as I was beginning to learn something new, I would concentrate on precision and accuracy rather than speed or enthusiasm. So that way later, when it came time to play the piece quickly, I would also be playing correctly. Whenever you find yourself at a new beginning, it's almost always the case that you can benefit from slowing down. Training muscles, training brains, takes time. And as tempting as it is to get carried away by the enthusiasm of embarking on something for the first time, it's almost always best to pause, to take a breath and make certain that you're forming those new skills correctly so you won't have to go back and unlearn them again later as you continue to progress. Obviously, because I am who I am and we are where we are, this is a spiritual lesson too. The High Holy Days are just around the corner, the annual opportunity for all of us to explore taking on new patterns of living. We're encouraged to consider all kinds of new modes of behavior, new expectations for ourselves in our relationships, in our work, our obligations to the community and to the world. When the sun goes down on Erev Rosh Hashanah, it's like the reset button that reboots our spiritual systems and gets us ready to take on new modes of behavior that aren't just supposed to last during those 10 days, but to be sustainable for the whole year yet to come. And just like every other kind of habit we want to take on for ourselves, if we expect it to last, we'd better start slow. There is, lastly, one piece of Torah that I want to share with you tonight. It comes from this week's portion. It comes from the beginning of the 8th chapter of Deuteronomy. God is reminding the people as they approach the entryway to the Promised Land to look back and remember how well they had been taken care of during their long journey from slavery to freedom and self-determination. God tells them this: "Notice that the clothes on your bodies did not wear out, nor did your feet swell, though you walked for 40 years." It's kind of a strange verse. The proof that God was with the Israelites, supervising their journey from on high as they made their way through the wilderness, was the fact that their clothes never got ragged and their feet never got swollen, even though they had walked all the way from Egypt to the Promised Land. The suggestion that most of the rabbis who wrote the classic commentaries on this verse is that this was just another of the miracles that God did for the people in the wilderness, like feeding the manna when they were hungry. Even though they spent all day walking for 40 whole years, nobody ever got a blister. Now, there's one rabbi who brings a very different commentary on this verse. His name is Rabbi Abraham ibn Ezra. He was born in Spain in the 12th century. And Ibn Ezra was sort of a pre-rationalist thinker. He doesn't have a lot of time or patience for explanations about the biblical text that rely on miracles to explain parts of the story that could otherwise be explained using logic. He was also, as it turns out, a person who spent quite a lot of time in his own life, almost 30 years, traveling, mostly by foot. He migrated throughout Spain and at one point wandered as far as Baghdad in Iraq. He was the typical wandering Jew, roaming, effectively homeless, from one country to another for 3 decades during the Middle Ages. So when Ibn Ezra encounters this verse and finds the commentaries that predated him, which suggest that the reason the Israelites' feet never got swollen on their 40-year journey was because of a miracle of the supernatural, he's not having it. No, he says, this was no miracle. The reason the Israelites' feet never got swollen was because God let them walk slowly. God knew that when you're facing a significant new undertaking, when you're starting something meaningful in your life, a new transition, a new project, a new skill, a new job, or a new relationship, and if you want that thing to last, you need to cultivate a tolerance for moving slowly. There will be plenty of time later for quickness. Concentrate now on doing it slow and doing it right. The journey from Egypt to the Promised Land, from slavery to freedom, wasn't a race. It was the evolutionary unfolding of a people. We had to learn gradually how to be free. We had to learn how to be a community. We had to learn how to live together, how to build a society that would be moral and sustainable and holy. And as eager as God must have been to see that process completed, God let us walk slowly. Folks, this is a season of all kinds of new beginnings. New schools for some, new jobs for others, new relationships and new resolutions of the heart that we'll take on as we enter into a new year just over a month from now. So let me encourage you, be bold. Be ambitious, be optimistic and audacious and eager about bringing new things into your life, but don't move too fast. Be deliberate and be thoughtful. Don't go so quickly that you stumble or fall and abandon your journey toward what is holy and what is good, so that you, like those who came before us, can trace your journey from past to present to future, one mindful, slow step at a time. Shabbat shalom, everybody.